Pre-independence Nigeria, it's 59 years since the country gained sovereignty from the colonial masters. One major benefit of that should be that a country can focus on realizing its possibilities to the benefit of its people. And in Nigeria, whether you talk about human resources, natural resources, or even the weather, the country is blessed in all aspects. However, realizing the prospect is never without its challenges, and Nigeria has had its share. This episode of Big Story shows how the country is handling its security 59 years after. You're welcome. I'm John-MEKWA. National discourse in Nigeria these days has been about security and how it relates with economy, which should come first, many have asked, and most have agreed that no economy can experience stability without security. In fact, the Chief of Army Staff, Tukur Buratai, in 2017 estimated that the economic impact of Boko Haram activities in the northeast has cost the country over 274 billion naira. More than 2.2 million Nigerians, according to the Internal Displacement Monitoring Center, were homeless as at December 31st, 2018. And the major cause is insurgency. The outbreak of Boko Haram insurgency in 2009 has steadily become the single greatest cause of displacement, with the federal government recording about 868,000 internally displaced persons in the northeastern regions at the end of 2014 to 1.7 million people by June 2017. Over time, with the combined efforts of the government at various levels, international organizations, non-governmental organizations, as well as individual contributions, over 63% of IDPs reside in host communities, sometimes in camp-like conditions, clustered around schools, churches, and mosques. In the camp, half of the population are women, 60% are below 18 years of age, while the 25% are persons with specific needs, although the gap for basic living requirements cannot be overestimated.
The humanitarian response started slowly, but it gained momentum from 2016 up to now, to date. When I took over my responsibilities here, the international community and the government were reaching around 365,000 people that were affected by the crisis. And at that time, there were well over 4-5 million people that were affected. In 2017, the response was scaled up to about 5.6 million people that were assisted. And that response in 2017 was very, very critical because the government and the international community was able to avert a famine, and they were also able to contain serious cholera outbreaks and other disease outbreaks. So it was quite a critical response. In 2018, a similar scale-up was realized, where another 5.5 million people were provided life-saving assistance, including food, water, sanitation, health, etc. In 2019, we slightly modified our approach. We actually developed what we call a multi-year humanitarian response strategy that brought into sharp focus the need to bridge humanitarian and development assistance in the search of a durable solution.
By June 2019, the United Nations and humanitarian partners had reached nearly 2.5 million people with humanitarian assistance, a total of 39% of the 6.2 million targeted for aid in 2019. However, 7.1 million Nigerians still need humanitarian assistance, and their hope to get food, medicine, water, and other basic needs depend on aid workers. Unfortunately, getting the relief to them is complicated. The security situation has affected access to deliver aid to the IDPs, especially in the northeastern parts of the country.
There are well over 5,233 aid workers working with international non-governmental organizations in northeast Nigeria alone, of which 94% of that are Nigerians. Only 6% are international. So that has been my advocacy, that Nigerians can do this, and I'm happy Nigerians are doing it and Nigerians are taking it over. In terms of access, I must tell you that access has improved over the years. From 2014, when the humanitarian community had no access to the affected population. But now we have a situation where we have access to a large number of the populations in northeast Nigeria, thanks to the military, the ongoing military effort. We have to be precise about that. But we still have enclaves that we are not able to access as international aid workers. And we have an estimated 800,000 people that we cannot reach. We only see these people when they leave these enclaves. And what we see is acute levels of vulnerabilities. Children acutely malnourished, and also women that are malnourished. So that is what we see at this point in time, and that remains our concern. I mean, because of the security, the insecurity, access remains a problem. The non-state armed groups are split into smaller groups, and they are engaged in what we call an asymmetric warfare, and they are looking for vulnerable targets. And indeed, humanitarian aid workers are becoming targets in northeast Nigeria as we speak. We have 6 of our colleagues that were adopted recently, and they have still not been released. And we keep calling on all stakeholders that are involved in this effort to release our colleagues, that all is done to get them released urgently.
It's not just humanitarian aid workers that have been held captive by the insurgents. Indigents have been victims. One prominent case is that of Leah SHARIBU, a 14-year-old student of Government Girls Science and Technical Secondary School in Dapchi, Yobe State. She was abducted 2 years ago alongside 111 other girls and another schoolboy. Eventually, the girls were released except her.
We come here to appreciate the federal government for the recent development that the special assistants to the presidency come out and declare that our daughter is still alive. So we really appreciate for that information. And now we come here to plead for the federal government and cry for them that they should do something possible for the release of our daughter. Because it has been for long, they are promising that, they're saying that they are negotiating with those captors, but up to now we did not see anything.
We want to plead with the government as well concerning Alice Ngada and even Greece, that in the video was pleading with the government to please answer the abductors so that they will be able to release her. For all those who are in captivity, even the remaining Chibok girls, and all those that are facing one thing or the other, we plead with the government to please do something and ensure that these people are released.
The insurgency has also resulted in destruction of infrastructure in the region, which is why the President, Muhammadu Buhari, inaugurated the board of the Northeast Development Commission. The Northeast Development Commission was established in 2017 after the bill establishing the commission was passed by the 2 legislative chambers. Then on October the 25th, 2017, the President signed it into an act. The NEDC is charged with the responsibility to, among other things, receive and manage funds from allocation of the federal account, international donors for the settlement, rehabilitation and reconstruction of roads, houses and business premises of victims of insurgency, as well as tackling the menace of poverty, illiteracy level, ecological problems, and any other related environmental or developmental challenges in the northeastern states.
The needs are, very wide, and some of the IDPs have spoken about what really they need. First thing, the major issue is that of food items. That's what I had across all the camps I met with those in charge. So we'll go back, look at it, and how those issues they raise can be resolved. And also there could be some other subsidiary issues like water, sanitation, all that kind of stuff.
As of now, I don't think there is a single existing road network in Borno State that remain functional and viable for commercial activities to go on smoothly in the state. The road between Maiduguri to Gamorongala, the road between Maiduguri to Bama, to Goza, to Banki, road between Maiduguri to Piu, even road between Maiduguri to Mongono, Gamorongala, are all in a sorry state. And the roads are very important. Agricultural produce cannot be easily conveyed to the market because of the existing bad road situation that we have in the state. The issue of mines, planting of mines by the insurgents, is also as a result of bad roads. Having good roads in the state will reduce the problem of insurgency by not less than 50%.
Part of our program is to see if we can improve on infrastructure, building of roads, bridges, culverts, and so on. This is in our plan, but you know it will take time. But certainly it is one of our major plans, and we hope very soon we shall start. We are here to see all this and to prepare our master plan for it. You must plan before you do anything. So when you say how soon, it is when we are prepared for it. We don't want to start something today and then tomorrow again we are not doing anything. We have to go, we are going around now to see where are we going to come into it when we are prepared to do that.
Dealing with insurgency from the roots, human rights activist Joe OKEI-ODUMAKIN advocates educating the youth who have in many cases become recruits for terrorism acts.
Poverty is part of the drive that makes some of these youngsters engage in terrorism, because even some of them are unemployed. And when we see that Nigeria has almost become the headquarters of poverty, you see some of these youngsters, some of them are even breadwinners. They do all sorts of things to eke a living. So you see that those that are recruiting them, apart from brainwashing them, they will also use that as a weapon to have a lot of these young ones won to their side. So one of the ways that we have used in trying to break the genes is to let our young ones realize that they don't have any other place except this country, and that freedom comes by struggle. No matter what they do, any money that is given through illegal means, it will always land them in trouble. It's also a wake-up call to our government. The government must be more responsive and responsible. A lot of our graduates, millions of them, are unemployed. And those that have parents, some of them, their salaries are not even regular. Some of them are civil servants. So government must do a lot more in catering for those who work, so that at the end they can reciprocate, ensuring that they give their young ones money, so that they will not use poverty to lure them into terrorism.
Unfortunately, Nigeria's security challenge does not end with insurgency. Figures from the police shows that over 1,000 were killed, 685 kidnapped in the first quarter of 2019. This is by a statement credited to the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu. Giving a breakdown of the crime rate, Mr. Adamu says that the Northwest had the highest number with 436, North Central came second with 250, while the South-South geopolitical zone recorded 130 deaths. However, the next set of data to be realized may just be tilted towards the Southwest. This is because of the latest report of incidents of insecurity recorded along the Ibadan-Ife-Akure Expressway. Many believe that this trend is not unconnected with the economic gains associated with criminal acts.
I do agree that it is not something that one should encourage, but a situation whereby a family member, it is he who feels it that knows it. You remember that it's he who feels it that knows it. It might be easier for you and I to sit back and say, look, don't mind them, don't worry, we're going to... But when you hear your loved one, one's parent or one's sibling or one's ward or one's husband or one's wife crying in agony, crying under trauma, pleading to save his or her life. In fact, even telling you that I have 1 million naira somewhere, go and pick it, just give them so that they can leave me and let me have my peace. And of course, it's also a common knowledge that we don't have enough policemen to even police this nation. So, a lot of crimes happen on a daily basis, especially kidnapping. And the people quietly, without even making noise, without even reporting to anybody, they negotiate and then they pay the ransom. I'm not saying it's right, but again, life is very important.
The police, however, allays the fears of Nigerians on what is perceived as an increase in kidnapping and crime in the country. The Assistant Inspector General in charge of Zone 11, which covers Oyo, Osun and Ondo State Police Commands, LEYE OYEBADE, says this development should be seen as a downside of development. Albeit, the law enforcement agencies say they have taken charge of the affected routes and are applying other means of discouraging kidnapping and other crimes on the road.
You go on that long stretch from Ibadan now up to that junction, Ijebu-Jesha, you see that we have flooded the place with policemen. Patrol vehicles also crisscross the whole of the highways that we have recorded these challenges. But we have spoken to those that were affected. We have gone on the road. I was on that road myself severally. We have identified some black spots, some flashpoints, and some areas around Wasimi, Akpomu, even before you get to Pogbogon, Ikire. But when you cover some areas, they change their tactics and they go creating another form of attacking innocent Nigerians. So it's an all-round protection strategy that we are devising. While we are flooding the road with patrol vehicles, while we are crisscrossing, while we are having safer highway patrols, we are also looking at their escape routes. Their escape routes have been identified to be along that waterfront. The waterfronts in Ondo State, those areas, when they commit the crime, they escape, and when they get away from that place, they can bust in Delta or in Lagos. So we're doing an upgrading of our marine police in that axis.
Efforts to curb banditry is also ongoing in the northwest and other parts of the country. Many suspects have been arrested and weapons seized, both at scenes of the crimes and in other cases following tip-off.
We sustain this tempo, the synergy between the police and other security agents and the army. We sustain the tempo. It's an ongoing process till when we get rid of all these bandits. Where they are saying they're in this forest, we are in the process. We have already started even entering that regime of forest. We have started, and that's why we have achieved this success. Because these people maybe they are the foot soldiers, they want to come and test our ground, and there is no way. We've shown that at least. The other day is just a rumor that saying they're using a heavy weapon. They are not using heavy weapon. These people that went there, they have not. You see the machines, some of the machines they have, and you see that this is their antics. They use a maybe small gun, then gun, this and this firearms, and they say it's a heavy weapon. No, the places they are saying we've not that Guruguzu forest, in the process we have started entering that. That's why you see we have started cornering the area and we have started getting these results.
We have made various and several recommendations of how to go about in terms of dealing with this issue of banditry, insurgency, and kidnapping. And it has a three-way approach. The first one is to restore normalcy so that people who have access to their farms and into the forest for energy and other resources available in the forest that are serving the local community. Secondly, now to look at the possibility of opening up the areas. And fundamentally is the issue of providing education and health facilities.
There's also the issue between the farmers and the herdsmen. The most impacted states are those of the middle belt like Benue, Taraba and Plateau. 3,641 people have died in the clashes from 2015 to late 2018. This has even attracted the United Kingdom, which has sent representation to Benue State for investigation.
The worrying issues around farmer-herder conflict. This is a subject that's very live with our government. Our parliamentarians are following it very closely. And as I think you may know, Governor, the very tragic circumstances of the killing of the two priests and others in April last year was the subject of a case study of the Bishop of Truro, who was requested by our previous Foreign Secretary, to look into persecution of Christians. So I wanted to come here to find out for myself what's really going on, and we talked to a range of people, and obviously you this evening, to understand the issue better. And importantly, what, if anything, you think the UK can do to help bring peace to the very important region. And the third reason is, of course, we want peace not just for itself, but because we want prosperity for Benue State, the breadbasket originally of Nigeria, the amazing riverine state, and obviously a huge potential of agriculture. So I'd really want to talk to you about that as well, the potential here and what the UK can do to support you, and I'm sure your objectives for economic development, particularly around agriculture.
2018 was the peak of these insurgents, and were heavily attacked. Schools were destroyed. Hospitals were destroyed. People had to run for their lives, and they left. And we ended up having 8 IDP camps. We had over 180,000 people living in this camp. 60 of these were children, and 30% were women. We had a tough time managing, but we're happy that gradually peace is returning, and some have started going back to their farms. But it has not been easy trying to reconstruct the schools, the hospitals, and worst of it is the settlement for these IDPs. Those people were in camp were over 180,000, but more than 500,000 people were living with relatives outside the camps. So it was quite a difficult thing, supporting and providing for them was a little bit difficult, but we are very happy that today the entire country in Nigeria is accepting what we saw several years ago, and that was prohibiting open grazing.
While the celebrations continue, the big security question is still begging for answers, because there can hardly be proper growth economically or otherwise without peace and stability. And Big Story looks forward to reporting good news before the country turns 60. That's our story. Thank you for watching. I'm John-MEKWA.